Thanks for tuning in to the 3D Tutor.
Hey guys, and welcome to this brand new virtual portfolio gallery tutorial. So where we left off last time, we painted this advanced material on the landscape, so it's looking pretty good with the dirt on there as well. And what we're going to be doing now is I'm going to be showing you how to import your foliage. So you've got stuff like the tree, if you have a tree, and also just getting like basic grass and stuff in there as well. So the way that you'd bring a tree in, it's the same thing as you would with anything basically. So you would go into 3ds Max, you would create your object, so whatever it might be, you would go to your file, you'd export selected, and then you'd set it as an FBX, so box for instance, and the settings you would choose would be smoothing groups, tangents and binormals, and preserve edge orientation. If it has a material, which it should, if you're obviously exporting it from within 3ds Max, you need to embed the media as well. And then if you're doing it to scale, let's say you have set it to scale, you need to make sure that within advanced options that the units are set up to centimeters. Now that only works if your viewport is also set up to the same measurements. The scale factor should be 1 for that to work. Okay, so don't worry too much about that. If you're not too sure and you've not set that up correctly, don't worry too much about the units right now. Just make sure the rest of the settings are set up correctly, because then you can always scale the object within Unreal anyway. So then you'll just press OK and it would export it. Okay, that'll be fine. Okay, so here is the tree FBX file. So I just exported the tree from within 3ds Max. Now I do have a tree tutorial series which I'm going to be completing over the next couple of days. I've just pretty much got the entire tree complete apart from the foliage, like the leaves itself, so we're going to be working on that soon, but for now you can get in what you have and don't worry too much about that. You can always update the model and it will update within the engine fine. Okay, so I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to keep it within the landscape folder just because I want everything within there. Now when you import a tree, for some reason, because it has a lot of planes for the foliage, we're going to be ensuring we deselect import a skeletal. You don't want that selected, and then within the advanced options just here, we're going to make sure we import normals and tangents as well. Auto generate collision, you can turn it on, but I would really turn it off because you want to set that up later. So I'm going to show you how to set that up in just a second. So go to import and it should import that in. Now one thing when you import a model without, with an opacity map from 3ds Max, it doesn't actually come in through to Unreal for some reason, so we need to just fix that up in just a second. So I'm just going to double click that first. You'll notice that it's just got loads of planes. Now that's fine because it's not showing the opacity map, so it looks really bad to be fair, but obviously we're going to fix that in just a second. So what I need to do here is I need to sort out the collision. So right now what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to go over and go to collision. I'm going to add this 10 DOP Z on the Z axis simplified collision. And that's going to be a kind of cylindrical shape. Now that's going to be okay because obviously the tree trunk itself is cylindrical as well. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to scale it only on these two axes first. I'm going to make it really thin and then I'm going to reduce the height. Now you can obviously have it as high as the middle of the tree, I guess, because you don't want your player to be able to jump on top of this collision box. Big no-no. So I'm just going to go and maybe just increase that. I mean, that's okay, it's not too bad. Obviously it's a bit too thin right now, so I'm just going to make it a little bit thicker, maybe move it across a touch as well. Okay, and we can adjust the size like so. So that's going to be okay for now. You can obviously do a more advanced collision, but that's going to be more than adequate for now. So we're going to save that. And we're going to close it. Okay, now we can actually drag this in. Now it's going to be huge. It's actually going to be really big. So this is just to test it in the viewport. We are going to be doing something slightly different to paint in the tree, but I'm going to show you two different ways to do that. So that's obviously not right. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to go into my landscape folder. I'm going to be importing in my branch opacity map, which is, like I said, the black and white image which tells the engine which areas of the foliage should be transparent. I'm going to double click on the leaves material. So this is the actual material that I've set up for those leaves, and I'm going to also then drag in the opacity map like so. So this is going to go in. Now one thing is opacity mask is actually grayed out, so you can link it up to it, but the issue is it's grayed out. So we need to go click in the background just here, and then we can go from blend mode from opaque to masked. Okay, and then that's going to do it for you. You see how now it's not grayed out, so that's going to be fine. You need to make sure you tick two-sided also. Now this is for all foliage, so we're going to be doing some additional foliage like grass a little bit later, so that's going to be perfect. So now you can see the big difference there. It's actually got rid of all those planes. The textures are all two-sided as well, so that actually looks a lot better now. It looks very tree-like, especially if you look at it from below. It's really good. Okay, so obviously that's okay and it's in there. It's not looking too bad. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be bringing in the branch, the normal map and the specular map. So that's what's going to obviously bring in a bit more detail on this tree as well. So in terms of the leaves, which look very flat still, so this should hopefully help to maybe just bring out some additional details. So I'm just going to go into that leaf material again. I'm just going to drag in those additional maps. So it's going to be the normal just there and the specular. All right, so the normal is going to go into the normal channel, and the specular is going to go into specular, and just save that. So if you have a look now, it looks a lot better. It's not really as shiny or as flat as before. You can experiment with the roughness as well. So if you put this into roughness, it might look a bit too reflective because the texture is actually a bit too dark. But within certain scenarios, that actually might look quite nice. But I'm going to leave it for now because I don't want it to... you can kind of see there's a bit of shine on there now, so that's kind of almost reflecting the 3D world, but not very much. It's just sort of a very gentle kind of reflection. So you see how shiny that is. It's actually looking really nice. If I just break the roughness, I want to make sure and see if that's what's causing it. So yeah, that's what's causing it. So I'm actually going to apply that to the roughness straight away and keep that. Okay, because I quite like the way that's looking. Just drag this in and place it. So I'm just going to place this in certain areas. This is going to go over here. What you want to make sure is that it doesn't obviously cut through inside this room. So anything you place around this doorway, just make sure that it doesn't cut through. So that's okay. I'm just going to double check the scale. So if I go in, just to play, you can see how the light is casting the shadows really nicely. Actually, I really like the way that looks. So the scale is actually pretty good for a tree, and you can see now the collision is set, so we can't actually walk into that tree trunk because it's obviously set up correctly. So that's all good. Now I will have to, in just a little while, apply my normal map and other materials to the tree trunk because right now it's obviously very dark. It's not really picking out any light or anything like that. So once that's done, I can hold Alt and I can make a copy. Now you don't want to obviously space them out too close because then it will just block out the light completely. So you kind of want to break it up, maybe play around with the scale a little bit. I know this is the same tree, pretty much. Like, I would always recommend you have a variation of trees, so they're not all exactly the same like mine, because then obviously it can look a little bit off and a little bit odd as well. So make sure in your workflow, in your environment, that you have a variation, at least a variation of texture, because the great thing is you could just change the texture, save it as a separate file, and then you can obviously bring that in and apply it. So that's pretty nice. Okay, so that's done. Let's have a look and see what that looks like. Let's see, we've got that, obviously a huge tree in the middle. That's actually probably too big, but I thought because it's the middle of the environment, maybe it needs to be quite big, but I might have gone a bit overkill on that. But yeah, these ones are looking quite nice. I probably need to throw in a skylight a little bit later just to bring out some of these blacks, because that's obviously pretty much black. And also I haven't built the lighting yet, so we're gonna do that just now. Okay, so the lighting is now built. Obviously it's really dark, so what I might do is just throw in a skylight, which can obviously pick out those darker areas. That's obviously a bit overkill. Now I find that 150,000 is probably a bit too high. I set it to 1, and that actually just gives me enough that it doesn't completely drown out all of that depth as well and whiten it all out. So obviously that's going to be better. So if we just have a go now, that's a lot better. It's a lot better. We can actually see the detail, we can see the shadows and other bits, which are quite nice. I might have to raise the light map resolution of this terrain. Okay, so to increase the shadow quality in your landscape, what you need to do is go on the right hand side. You click on the landscape, go to static lighting resolution. It's currently set to 1, so I'm going to go to 2. And actually I'm just going to hit build again because we need to build it to make sure that it calculates the lighting, and then we're going to see what it looks like. Okay guys, so what I ended up doing was I actually changed the settings of the static light resolution of the landscape to 16 when it was initially 1. So that obviously made it a lot better. So as you can see, it's looking a lot better than before. So yeah, that was the tutorial on actually getting in the trees. I'm just going to be showing you really quickly on getting in the normal maps, the normal maps, the specular, and the roughness on the actual tree trunk itself, because right now it's just looking very smooth, which is not very good. Okay, so I've just brought in the tree normal, the tree roughness, and the tree specular. Now the roughness map is actually for reflection. I'm going to add a very slight one on this tree trunk, and hopefully it's going to give me the desired effect that I want. So we're going to test that out. Actually, this middle tree, like I said before, is just huge, so I'm going to shrink that down a touch as well. Maybe just play around with the angle a little bit, not so much. I'm just going to turn off the rotation snap, just change the angle a little bit. There we go. Alright, so we're going to go into the tree trunk material, which is this one. We've got the diffuse. I'm just going to chuck in the 3 just there, which are, like I just said, the normal, roughness. In fact, I believe that is the specular. Yep, that's the roughness, and this is the normal. If you ever get confused about which is which, if you click on the material, it will tell you just here what it's called. Okay, so that's specular, that is the roughness, and this is the normal. Alright, so we're just going to save that, and we're going to see what it looks like. So straight away you can see that there's a bump on there, which looks quite nice, and as we can see from certain angles, like you can just, it's probably not that evident, but you can just see how there's a bit of reflection on there. It's quite a glossy tree trunk. I probably should turn that down a bit, but for now it's going to be okay. It's not going to look too bad. Okay, so that brings this video to an end. Currently we're looking at a foliage room which currently looks like this, which is okay. It's not too bad. There's obviously the foliage could be a little bit better, as you can tell the planes and the trees and stuff, but again, it's all placeholder stuff. But yeah, it's not looking too bad. I had to readjust some of the trees, get some more materials on there, like the bumps and other things like that. So there is more of a kind of 3D feel and some surface texture on the tree trunk itself. Maybe reduce the roughness a little bit because it's looking a little bit too reflective in certain areas, but I wanted a touch of light bounce off there anyway. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. Hopefully you've had a good time with it. If you have, please do hit the like button, guys, and I'll catch you all next time.